Hey everyone, welcome to this week's release of the Hashrate Happy Hour podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, the Texas Blockchain Council, a Bitcoin-first, nonprofit industry organization working to make Texas the jurisdiction of choice for Bitcoin mining and blockchain innovation. They will be hosting North America's premier policy conference for Bitcoin and the digital asset ecosystem on November 15th through the 17th in Fort Worth, Texas. For more information, please visit their website at texasblockchaincouncil.org. On today's show, my guest is Sam Copeland. Sam is the VP of Sales at Navier. Navier is a software and infrastructure company that works to help companies develop sources of sustainable, long-term economic growth. Their expertise is in designing and implementing data centers, which allows them to offer scalable, efficient, turnkey solutions for projects revolving around the alternative asset space. Sam is coming to the show with 15 years of experience in the utility industry, with roles ranging from planning engineer to distribution planning engineer to solution manager roles, and so he's uniquely positioned to talk about just how beneficial Bitcoin mining is to a utility company and the grid. During today's show, Sam and I will talk about what the traditional tools a solution manager has at his or her disposal at a utility company, what the benefits of Bitcoin mining as an energy management resource are, and how, when that is coupled with all the other existing tools at a utility company, you can really start to have a large increase in efficiencies. We also talk about how Bitcoin mining is a great way to start ushering in more electric vehicles into the United States. And lastly, we dive into thinking through how to put a proposal together for a Bitcoin mining facility in a way that makes sense to a utility company. This episode really helps highlight why I personally am so bullish on Bitcoin mining, and to steal a line from Sam, how it's actually a way for us to get past Bitcoin and to show that this is really an infrastructure improvement discussion that just so happens to also have a perfectly scarce asset as the byproduct. And so with that, I hope that you enjoy today's conversation with Sam Copeland. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Like I said in the introduction, I'm here with Sam Copeland at Navier. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Looking forward to the conversation today. I'm especially excited because of your deep background in the utility and electric industry. And I think what's going to help give us the right backdrop for a lot of the conversation today, Sam, is to maybe have you kind of go through your background, and then I always really enjoy also hearing how your background then led you into Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got 15 years of power utility experience at various companies, about 10 years at Southern Company. There I was mainly focused on grid operations planning of the grid and managing the Oasis system, which is the way that energy marketers will purchase transmission to get power from one location to somewhere else in the country. And from there, I moved over to Ameren in a distribution planning role. In that role, they really needed somebody to focus on solar interconnection studies. They really didn't have anyone, and they were getting flooded with these new renewable requests. And so I kind of took that on, and that experience led me into the solutions manager role that I had, where I was focused on DERs in that respect. And really, in that role, we were focused on pilot projects, things that you weren't typically doing on the grid. It wasn't your core business, and our goal was to test things out and see if this might be a good fit, for Ameren in that scenario, and then sell it internally to the business segments to see if they wanted to make it part of their core business.
That's super fascinating. I appreciate the walk through your background. I actually want to kind of zero in on the DER and the solutions management role a little bit here. I'm curious because I know that, well, your role was designed for it, but the connection of solar and renewables to the grid is tricky. What were some of those approaches or things that you guys were exploring as solutions for that?
Yeah, so I came into that role, but the way it was set up is there was three solutions managers that were kind of focused in different areas, and with mine being focused on the DER aspect of whatever would be innovative technologies. I was mainly looking for DERMS systems, so the management tools. We're starting to look at some hydrogen applications and things like that. But one of the other managers who also ends up working at Navier now was doing a project with Bitcoin mining. And I started to I had my area that I was looking at, but I was like, some of the stuff that I'm doing with solar and wind and just the management aspect of it, the mining is really just a highly flexible load that can, really make some of these other things that I'm working on work better.
Oh, that's so cool. So you guys were at the company and you're kind of looking across the aisle like, boy, that project actually kind of fits the bill over here too. So that's
exactly. Yeah.
That's really cool. So did you guys start to bring that in as either a new tool in the tool belt, or was this a new type of energy management tool, or maybe just talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So there was a lot of projects that and ideas that kind of came about once we started understanding. You have to keep in mind, like at this point, we were engineers, managers that were working at a utility, coming up with these projects. We understand the grid very well. Mm-hmm. We understand power plants. We understand wires. At the time, I didn't understand what hash rate was. I didn't understand. I mean, I was personally, interested in crypto myself, but I had not mined myself. I didn't know how to connect a miner to the network. There was a lot of things that I just did not know. So, we had to hire Navier to come in and show us and build this mine for us so that we could understand how it works. So, like, the first project was, how do you mine? That was our pilot. Like, how does this work?
Starting from ground zero. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get all these, computers, these machines, and you fire them up and they're running, and you're like, so it starts to click. You're like, oh, we have load banks out on the system that literally just put heat into the air for no reason.
Wow.
This is a load bank that turns electricity into a revenue stream that you can then flip on and off. And, you look at a microgrid. If you've got solar, it's got a lot of really, really good qualities, but it also has some limitations. If the clouds come over or if the sun doesn't shine that day, it's really not doing you much good. You look at a battery. It's amazing if you need to charge something up or discharge, but if you don't need to use the energy and your battery's full, then it's not doing you any good. The wind doesn't blow, same deal.
Yep.
So all these new, like, renewable resources, they all have their place, but if you can put all of them together, that's when you have a solution. And so the way we saw it is that once we understood what mining was, okay, I like to call it beyond Bitcoin.
Okay.
How do you get beyond the fact that you're going to a utility and saying, hey, I want cheap power so that I can mine? It's how does that utility use that as a resource? And so we started coming up with other projects. I can give an example of one.
Great.
When I was in distribution planning, there was a lot of areas, and when you get out into the more remote locations, you're going to have radial lines that may have 20, 30 customers on it. When you go trace that line all the way back to the substation, you're going to have usually two transformers there, two substation transformers. And the reason for that is that if you lose one of those transformers, one, it's probably in such a remote location that it's going to be hard to get, trucks back there. Sometimes I've seen these things in the middle of a forest, like perched up on a hill. And I'm like, how do you get any of the equipment there? So that second transformer is usually there for redundancy. If something were to happen to that primary one, it flips over to the backup, and that way the customers aren't out for weeks to months while you try to figure out what's the deal to get this replacement out. And so when you do a load analysis and look and see what's that second transformer seeing, a lot of times it's nothing compared to what's on the primary. So what we came up with was set a mine there that's actually reading the load that you would see on that primary line, and then connect via a Schweitzer, probably 851 relay, and basically get it reading that bus tie breaker for those transformers. And the second that breaker closes in, the relay opens up, the mine shuts off. That second transformer picks up the exact amount of load that the primary one was seeing previously. Because the worst thing you can do for a transformer is not run it at its optimal rating. They will actually rust. And whenever those things aren't running, a lot of times when you call on them, they will fail. So, when I'm talking to the utilities, I'm trying to help them understand that I can come in as a Bitcoin miner and provide a service to you from a reliability standpoint that's going to help improve your customers. And, you can take me offline whenever you need to. And the second that you need, this power for the reliability reasons, it's there. No issues. And so that was just one of the projects that we identified 50 or so locations across the system where this could work. Now, you start getting into okay, well, is there enough land around there? So that start thinking about things like that, then you can quickly start crossing off that didn't work, that one didn't work. But the idea is there, and kind of the way I see it in the future is that if the utilities can see this as a true asset and see the value behind it, start integrating it into the substation design model. When you're building these substations, leave enough space for a 40-foot container so you can have your flexible load there so that you're actually, improving the reliability of all the assets in the substation.
That's such a cool idea, and just a powerful idea. I actually didn't know that typically they're dropping two transformers there, and one is for the backup, and then if you don't use the backup regularly enough, it's going to rust and then not become not be able to be called on when you need it. So that's defeating the purpose right there. What I'd be curious to get your take on then, just kind of staying with that example, is for that operation, then it almost needs to be vertically integrated, because I'm thinking through worst case scenario, the primary transformer does stop, switches over, turns off the mine, and then let's say it's in rural Minnesota, it's going to take a month before they can get another transformer out there. I don't know. I'd be curious to get your take. Would a Bitcoin mining company be able to stomach that much downtime, or is that better suited to be vertically integrated at a utility company? Or does the Bitcoin mining company just know that they're going to have to go in and grab containers on occasion if they're looking at a month plus of downtime?
Yeah, great question. So the best scenario is that the utilities would own the asset. If they can capitalize an asset, that's going to be better for them all around. This really gets back to, who do you have to convince? Do I need to convince the distribution planning engineers? Yeah, because they're the ones who are going to be modeling it and they're going to see the value. What about the distribution planning supervisors? Yeah, they probably have to sign off on it. As you go up the chain, you'll get more and more people who have budgets for this kind of stuff. But ultimately, you got to get back to the Public Service Commission, because the Public Service Commission is what says the utility can allow, what pieces into an actual rate filing.
Yeah.
So what can you consider a capital asset? Well, the Public Service Commission, their goal is to look out for the customers. So really, my goal is the education of this is a benefit to the customers, because what we're doing is providing, reliability so that when they turn the lights on, they work. That's the goal. And so the cleanest possible solution would be for the utility to own that asset. Now, is that what's going to happen day one? Probably not. More than likely, someone's going to have to come in like Navier and, own and operate that mine. Because really, the one thing about utilities, and I was in utilities for a long time, they value stability. They value that when a switch is flipped, the lights are going to work. And so when it comes to innovation, when it comes to anything that might be a little bit different, no one really wants to be first, because they want to make sure no one really wants to take that risk. So figuring out a way to show that this really is a good idea and that this really does work, it really just, all we're waiting for is that springboard, just one to take a shot.
And I'm hearing more and more of that, to be honest with you, Sam, is that like there is a lot of activity and a lot of very smart people modeling and looking at this and thinking very seriously about having this integrated or another tool in the tool belt, or energy management, system in the portfolio. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just a matter of, that first actor who's going to be the first group to do it, or, maybe that continues to look like pilot programs with Navier. I think you're absolutely right. And then the floodgates do open, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different. Once I really started getting into this, I came up with. I've got a PowerPoint slide that's got 10 different slides and 10 different use cases depending on where you are in the I guess different parts of the grid, whether you're a generation owner, whether you're a transmission planner, whether you're a distribution planner, if you're really focused on renewables. There's a solution at every level of the company.
Wow. That's so. If any of the listeners aren't bullish on Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, I mean, just people like yourself and some of the other guests that I have had on who are coming from the industry, the electric utility industry, who are saying, very similar things. If that doesn't make you bullish, only because you can strip away, I think you said it, like, let's get beyond Bitcoin. This is an infrastructure play. This is an energy optimization tool.
Look at the electric vehicle question. So everybody says within, I want to say like 5 years from now, 50% of the cars on the road are going to be electric vehicles. Okay. What's stopping that from being the case today? Well, for me personally, if I'm going to be driving, so I'm in St. Louis, so I'm going to be driving to, say, from here to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. All right. Where am I going to charge when I get to like Kentucky or Tennessee? All right. I don't know where that is. Now, my gas vehicle, where am I going to stop to fill up? Probably nowhere. Probably nowhere in Illinois, but everywhere else I'll be all right. So I know the answer. Okay. Yes. So all we got to do is just build more charging stations, and the cars are going to show up. Okay. So you go to the people who are building the charging infrastructure, and they're going to say, "Why am I going to build charging infrastructure? There's no cars." Nobody wants to be first, and it's going to take, it's going to take something giving that little push to try to get there. So I'm trying to say an electric vehicle charging station is just an electric interconnection point. why don't we put a Bitcoin mine there, and it's just going to sit there and mine at a nominal rate until the cars show up. When the cars show up, we'll ramp the mine down. You can charge the car, and then once the car leaves, the mine ramps back up. Now you're utilizing this infrastructure that you put there, and you incentivize them to go ahead and put the infrastructure there, so that that's going to, in turn, incentivize the cars to come sooner.
Yep. Oh, that's fantastic. Or, I mean, just to keep riffing on that a little bit, overbuild just a little bit to support, both. Yeah, that's cool. I guess actually, let me ask you: is it an appealing option for the utility company to overbuild slightly to allow for that mine to be there, to then just continue to monetize and recoup their capital investment? Is that an appealing option?
It can be, yeah. Okay. So I would take this in a slightly different direction, but still sure. Similar. Working with like economic development groups for, let's say, electric companies that are in areas that are that really want to incentivize growth. Okay, everybody wants the Google data center, the auto manufacturing company, the Amazon warehouse. Everybody wants that load. They want that customer, and so building out that infrastructure that can help incentivize them to try to come to a certain area. Well, that's expensive, but there can be some value there. Build it, they will come kind of deal. Yeah. So I'm trying to work with economic development to say, okay, where do you want that auto manufacturer? Where do you want that Amazon warehouse or whatnot? And let's put a mine there. Make it attractive for me to put the mine there, so that you can then work with the power company to have a justification for building out that infrastructure that's going to be enough for not only the mine, but also for that auto manufacturer that you're going to want to come next door.
Yeah. Do you think some of the lag on this is just, you kind of touched on this by saying, make it attractive for me to place a mine there to help you incentivize growth here. Do you think the lag on it has to do with tariff structures, and these companies don't have a rate structure that is really incentivizing a Bitcoin mine to come in? If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it kind of comes back to what I was saying with really needing to get in front of the Public Service Commission. And it's purely just education, because what has happened, to date with Bitcoin? You have Bitcoin miners that are going to the power utilities and saying, hey, I want cheap power.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and so, and as Bitcoin becomes more popular, you just have more and more people going to them saying, hey, I want cheap power. And after a while, you just fall on deaf ears. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I get it. You want cheap power,
for your funny magic internet money. We get it.
Tired of talking about it, kind of thing. And so at this point, it's kind of, we reached this point where we almost need to take a step back and be like, okay, well, let's think about how we're asking. It's not what we're doing. Before it was just go ask, and now it's more of a how you're doing it and who's doing it. So that's one thing that Navier is working on, is really building that relationship with the utilities that we're gonna, if we build something, we're gonna be there. We're not gonna pick up and leave when the price of Bitcoin goes below 20K. We're working on building out jobs for your community. That's, show that you're there for them and part of it. That's the, I guess, the change that we all need to make, is to really think about what can we do to give back or to make better wherever we're going to be building out new infrastructure.
We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor. Support for this episode comes from Sunnyside Digital. Are you ready for the next Bitcoin bull run? Get ahead of the game by building out your Bitcoin mining infrastructure now. Sunnyside Digital is your one-stop shop for everything Bitcoin mining, from transformers and switchgear to racks and miners. With a white glove approach to understanding your needs, they'll provide you with the hardware you need at the most competitive pricing possible. Say goodbye to your sourcing headaches and say hello to Sunnyside Digital. Contact their sales team today at sunnysideinc.ca or via email at sales@sunnysideinc.ca. All right, now back to the show. I completely agree with that. And I think as this industry is maturing, and by this industry, I mean the Bitcoin mining industry, as the Bitcoin mining industry is maturing and attracting professionals like yourself to come into the space and bring that perspective and really start to bring like the language that we need to start getting in to the right decision makers at the utility companies and at the local, legislative levels to start having some of this get implemented. It's exciting to see all of that happening. So Sam, we've been kind of dancing around it. You work for Navier, and I'd love for you to go into who is Navier, who are your customers, just kind of give us the 10,000 foot view on Navier and how you guys are working in the space.
Sure. Yeah. So Navier really is there's two parts to Navier. We have a software side that was heavily focused on some miner management software that we call mine.app, and then also our newest product we just released, which is called Reactor. You can find it on the website reactor.xyz. And Reactor, love to set up a demo to anybody who's interested in it, but it is a way to virtualize hash rate. You can be mining in minutes just by going to the website and purchasing your token, your NFT, that's going to give you the hash rate that you can then point to the pool of your choice. So you're in full control of your own hash rate. So that's one side of the company. The other one is more of an infrastructure side where we acquire sites, we build our own mines, we build and design mines for others. And a real focus is helping utilities that are interested in this space that would benefit from having a highly controllable, highly flexible load. We help them understand what they need, what's the right solution for the area that they're in, and how to do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I know, for my show, I'm very focused on the infrastructure side and the Bitcoin mining component and how it fits into the utility company and the utility industry. Could you maybe just touch on Reactor and more specifically, I'd be curious to get your take on, do you see Reactor as like a perfect solution for a utility company who's looking to vertically integrate a Bitcoin mining operation? An example being, they don't want the balance sheet risk of Bitcoin. And so this is a perfect way for them to maybe be the supplier of that hash rate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that was really what kind of pulled me, I guess, into not into Reactor. That's what really pulled me into Navier, was seeing that, they had this software piece that can be perfectly married to the infrastructure piece for utility that literally says, I love your solution. I don't love Bitcoin. Are we allowed to say that on the show?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of utilities that could possibly benefit from this solution, but as much as they may love the idea, they're like, there's no way that I can hold Bitcoin on my balance sheet, which is fine. There's absolutely ways around that. We have ways around it even without Reactor, but Reactor gives you still that Bitcoin upside without that Bitcoin risk. So you are able to invest in the infrastructure and the machines, and then you essentially forward sell the hash rate and get paid for it today. And your responsibility is to just keep that hash rate online. And then, Reactor even has auto balancing capabilities to where if you're, if you come offline for a certain amount of time, it's going to be able to make it up on the back end there. So it really just gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to do I want to reap the benefits of this flexible load without having to figure out who's going to set up my wallet and all of the questions that comes along with how do I transfer the Bitcoin over to cash and things like that. So yeah,
that's awesome. What I really like about it is the fact that it's offering that type of solution. I had another guest on the show recently, and what they were explaining to me is that for a utility company to truly capture, the benefits of Bitcoin mining on their grid or their system is to then take the Bitcoin on the balance sheet, because then you're getting all the upside as well as, an energy management tool. But, Reactor offers, not marginal, that's not the right way to say it, but, they get a cash flow benefit from, renting or forward selling the hash rate through this product. So that's great. I love that. Very excited to see you guys launch that. And I got to read there was an article in Cointelegraph. So it's very cool to see you guys start, broadcasting and being so public with it.
Right. Yeah. It's really exciting for us. We're happy to see it, live and see how it develops. And I think it's really going to be a benefit to everybody in the industry.
Yeah. So speaking of your customers, so now, let's go back to the infrastructure side of the Navier business. Who have you guys kind of mapped out as, your key demographic for a customer? Is it miners who are just starting? Is it large publicly traded companies, large publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies that are trying to grow and expand? Or are you guys really zeroing in on utility companies? I think I know the answer, but I'm just curious who you guys are identifying as a key demographic.
I think it depends on, so like I mentioned, there's really two sides to the company. There's the software side and the infrastructure side. So which ones are you asking about?
As far as infrastructure, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So for infrastructure, I really see the utility side as the completely untapped market. It's not the only thing we're focused on, obviously, but it's the hardest market to get into, but also it's definitely the one that has the least amount of traction on it.
Yeah. Like I said, I was pretty sure I knew the answer to that. That was what I had thought. Yeah. So to kind of go backwards in the conversation, we were talking about some of the, there are currently some tools that exist to help with energy management and other solutions. What do you think about those? I mean, are there still places for those? Or are there still reasons to use some of the stuff that exists today? And maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Regarding control software and things like that? Yeah.
Or is Bitcoin mining, potentially just going to wipe all that out?
Oh, no, you absolutely have to have the controls. That's the only way that, going back to that microgrid concept, everything in the future, we're not going to have, this massive power plant. The way I see the future, we're not going to have this massive power plant and lots of wires and then distribution substations everywhere. We're going to have small little microgrids everywhere. And the only way those little microgrids work is if all the control systems are, talking to each other. And, having that right system that's going to control things in the right way is going to be really the glue that makes it all work. And we're actually working on a project now with a public utility that is going to take our software, controls software, and see how quickly these machines can ramp up and down and follow signals and things like that. So we're actually already in the process of coming up with that solution, or what we believe we have it, but testing it and proving it out. Everything has to be proven at this point. So
you guys have a pilot program going. Oh, that's very cool.
So we're trying to come to the utilities with the complete solution.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I don't. Am I able to ask you to again stay at 10,000 feet? We don't have to talk about names of anything, but could you maybe just go into a little bit more of that, what that pilot program looks like from a high level?
I don't know how deeper I can get into it, honestly. Okay. I mean, it's
okay. That's no problem.
We've got a small mine set up, and it's really just going to be giving it certain. It's going to be set up at a test facility, and the whole point will be to constantly, run it through its paces, give it lots of different signals to follow, and see how it reacts.
That's exciting, and
no, I can't say who it is.
No, that I wouldn't expect you to, and I wasn't. I won't even ask. But that is so exciting. That's just unbelievably exciting. Very cool to hear that. So as we're kind of starting to wrap up the show, Sam, I do always like to ask my guests, and you come with such an interesting background because you have so much experience in the utility space, and we've been touching on it a little bit here and there, but I'd love to hear your take on, utility companies that may not be open to this at all, just like from the onset. What might they be missing, or is that just an education piece? I'd love for you to touch on, why they might be saying no from the onset, from your perspective.
Probably, maybe afraid of change, maybe afraid of rocking the boat a little bit. I think utilities in general, they get comfortable. It's not somebody, and it's not necessarily, that's not a bad thing. That can be a good thing, because think about their business. Their business is to make sure that the lights come on, that the air conditioners work, and so there's not a whole lot of incentive to do something drastically different. So whenever someone comes to, a utility and says, "Hey, let's try to do something different," the initial reaction is kind of I don't think so. That doesn't sound fun. And I think it's going to take more of more time for more of the renewables to get out on the system, more of the need for controllable loads and things like that, and for other people to test out, like the reliability solution that I came up with the transformer. It's like, if that becomes more of a standard way of doing things, then I think some of the other utilities that would be, a hard no today would be considering it. And I think that what it's going to take is the more innovative utility companies to try it first. Somebody's got to, just go out there and say, "Hey, you know what? This was pretty cool. This worked the way I wanted it to." I think a lot of people just, take the utilities out of it for a second. Just think about just crypto in general. Back in 2013, when I was at Southern Company, there was a group of us that did like stock trading and things like that, and we'd all bounce ideas back and forth. And I remember one of the engineers came up to me and he was like, "So Sam, you gonna buy that Bitcoin money?" I was like, that fake money? I'm not buying that. I'm not touching it. And I didn't even think about it again until I think it was like 2017 or something like that. And or maybe it was 2018. I can't remember, but I remember opening up my Cash App and I saw Bitcoin on there, and I was like, "Huh, So that's how you buy Bitcoin. That's not how you buy Bitcoin. It's just a way to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But that was my thought. And so I was like, whatever, I'll put $50 in. So I just like threw $50 over it. And then I closed it out and I didn't think about it again. And I opened it up about 3 months later and then it was $200. And I was like, wait a second.
Wait a minute.
What happened here? And so that's when I got the Bitcoin standard, and I started, reading everything I possibly could about it, and it's education. At that point, I was like, oh, I understand what this is now. And in 2013, I just completely wrote it off without actually asking a question or thinking about it. I just assumed that I knew what the answer was, and that this is not for me, and this is not for anybody, and this is fake, and it's going to zero. If I took just 30 minutes, go read about it. Then I understood it.
Yeah, I wish that I had even known about it in 2013. Yeah, that you highlight such a good point there. Is it's education and it takes time, and I think it takes like an average of 3 or 4 times of hearing about Bitcoin before you do start to get curious, and then you start to read and go down that rabbit hole.
I mean, I'll say this: I was at a renewable energy conference last year. I was at the RE Plus conference in Anaheim, and I can't tell you how many people that I went up to, and they're like, so what do you do? I was like, oh, I work for a Bitcoin mining company. I went straight to it. I didn't sugarcoat it, nothing. It wasn't, I don't work for a data center company. Like, no, I'm doing Bitcoin mining, just to see how they would react. And most of the responses I got were, why are you here? And after about a 30-minute conversation, the response was, thank you for coming. I had so many people that actually changed their tune on Bitcoin, and I was like, I love renewables. I think renewables are great. All these goals by 2050 to be 100% renewable, that takes money, right? That's going to be expensive and it's going to take time. Like, how are we going to get there? Mm-hmm. Man, it'd be great if we had something that could turn electricity into money.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you next, actually, I was curious how some of the shows, you've been going to quite a few industry events as of late. I was going to ask that you already jumped into it, what the sentiment was because I think you guys had a booth at Distributech, which I think you guys were the only Bitcoin mining company at the entire event. What was the sentiment there?
I mean, it's slow growth in this industry. It's really starting to see the change from why are you here to, oh, that's an interesting idea. So we've gotten to interesting idea at this point. Like we'll see when we get to like we've deployed X number of these things across our system. Once we get to that point, then we all will be. We will have arrived.
It'll be a whole new landscape at that point. Yeah, I'm excited to see that landscape too.
But at this point, it's at least progressed from I have no idea what you're even talking about to that's an interesting idea. So to me, that's progress.
That's a lot of progress, and like I said, I'm very excited to see the continuation of that. Well, Sam, I really appreciate the conversation today. This has been really insightful. I love the backstory and your professional career history of, all the years in the utility industry, and then seeing the Bitcoin mining industry as, the right tool, jumping to the other side of the table. Really appreciate the time. I like to make sure I give my guests a moment at the end for a handoff to the audience. I want, for the utility companies listening and just, anyone who's interested to be able to get in touch with you and Navier. So please give a handoff.
Yeah, thanks. So, if anyone's interested, they can email me at sam@navier.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, Sam-Copeland. You can find me. And I'd love to just have a chat about any of these opportunities.
That's great. Sam, really appreciate the time. You take care.
All right, thanks.